The clip started like every other boring porch moment. Grainy, quiet, a little fisheye distortion that made the welcome mat look like a trampoline. Except Mr. Halden wasn't walking past. He wasn't picking up a package. He was just there, standing on my porch like he had a reason to be part of my morning. He leaned toward my doorbell camera like he knew exactly where the lens lived. His face stayed out of frame, just the brim of a baseball cap and the shoulder of a clean windbreaker. Then he checked his watch. Not casually. Not like, oh, I'm late. More like he was confirming I was late. And the creepiest part wasn't the lingering. It was what he said. Soft. Like a private note he assumed I'd never hear. Yep, he muttered. Right on time. Why was he timing my door? I watched it twice. 3 times. Each time my coffee got colder, like it was trying to match the temperature in my stomach. And I kept doing that thing people do when something feels off. I tried to sand down the weirdness. Maybe he was checking a misdelivered package. Maybe he heard an animal. Maybe it was nothing. Then my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number saved as Halden, neighbor, because he'd introduced himself like that on day 1. It read, "Morning, Claire. You usually head out at 6:10 Mondays. Everything okay?" My grip tightened around the cup, paper creasing under my fingers. Because I had never told him that? Not once. How did he know my routine down to minutes? Let me back up. 2 weeks earlier, I'd pulled into my new rental with a car full of boxes and the kind of hope you only allow yourself after you've been burned. Raleigh area suburb, tree-lined streets, neat mailboxes. It's the occasional kid on a scooter, the occasional golden retriever living its best life. I wasn't moving to reinvent myself. I was moving to stop being reinvented by other people's expectations. After everything, the envelope, the final payment I never made, the group chat that taught me how quickly community can turn into a courtroom, I wanted boring. I wanted normal neighbor wave boring. I wanted HOA email about trash cans boring. I should have known better than to ask the universe for boring. Boring has a way of taking requests personally. The first time I met Mr. Halden, it was the day I was trying to wrestle a collapsible bookshelf out of my trunk without dislocating a shoulder. He appeared like a neighborhood magician. "New renter?" he asked. Warm voice, the kind of friendly that feels practiced. "I'm Claire," I said. Just moved in." "Halden," he said, and handed me a foil-covered plate. "Welcome to Hawthorne Ridge. Banana bread. We're big on looking out for each other." He said that last part like it was a motto stitched on a pillow somewhere. I thanked him. I meant it. I also noticed he did a quick glance past me. Not at my face, at my car, the back window, the trunk. Like he was inventorying my life. It was subtle, polite, easy to dismiss. So I did. I mistook observant for kind. The next morning, I got my first HOA email. Not because I was a homeowner. Rentals still got the newsletters apparently, like spam with a clipboard. The subject line, Neighborhood Safety Reminder. Inside were friendly bullet points that somehow read like warnings. Porch packages, secure. Doorbell cams, recommended. Report suspicious activity, encouraged. And then, buried like it was normal. Unapproved soliciting and unauthorized rentals will be documented. Documented. That word hit me funny, like someone had already decided what the story was, and they were just gathering receipts. Mr. Halden's banana bread sat on my counter. I took a bite anyway. I told myself I was being dramatic. Documented by who exactly? I'm a project manager. Hybrid schedule, 2 days in office, the rest at home, a constant low-level negotiation between meetings and laundry. Mondays I hit the gym early because it's the only way I don't spend the whole week feeling like a human email. Wednesdays are trash day. Tuesdays and Thursdays I drove to the office. Same route, same stoplight that took forever, same parking deck that smelled faintly like old rain. It wasn't exciting, but it was mine. And when you've had your privacy peeled back before, routines become a kind of quiet armor. until someone else learns the pattern. The first real jolt came on a Wednesday afternoon when I was in back-to-back calls and ignoring my front porch like it was a responsibility I hadn't agreed to. At 2:37, my doorbell cam pinged. Package delivered. At 2:38, another ping, motion detected. I opened the app between meetings and watched Mr. Halden step into frame, bend, and lift my box. Not slowly, not hesitant, like he'd been waiting for it. He held it up to the camera for a second, then he walked off with it, out of frame. My heart did that stutter step thing. I typed a message before my brain caught up. "Hi, did you just take my package?" He replied instantly. "Yep, porch pirates love Wednesdays. I grabbed it to keep it safe. I'll bring it by after you're done working." He said it like he'd checked my calendar, because apparently he had. How did he know I wouldn't come out? That night he returned the box, smiling, holding it with two hands like he was presenting an award. "Just keeping you safe," he said. "This neighborhood, you know, we watch out." "Thanks," I said, because that's what you say when you don't know what else to do. Then, over the next few days, the texts started coming like tiny, polite taps on my boundaries. "Did you mean to leave at 7:40 today? That's later than usual. Your porch light didn't click on at 9 o'clock. Might want to check the timer. You forgot to roll your trash can back by 8:15 Wednesday. HOA gets picky." Each message wore a friendly outfit, but they all carried the same quiet truth. He was watching. Friendly isn't always harmless. I didn't call anyone. Not yet. I did what I always do when something doesn't make sense. I started tracking it. I sat in my car after an errands run, engine off, coffee in the cup holder going cold again, and I replayed clips with timestamps like I was reviewing a project schedule. Monday, 6:14 a.m., Wednesday, 2:38 p.m., Thursday, 7:12 a.m., Friday, 6:02 p.m. Always close to the edges of my routine. Not random, not coincidence. A pattern drawn around my life like a pencil outline. And the moment it clicked, my stomach dropped. Because patterns mean intent. If it was intentional, what was the goal? I called the leasing office and got Kim, the property manager. Her voice had the calm cadence of someone who'd heard every complaint and filed most of them under, "People are exhausting." "I don't want to sound paranoid," I began, already hating myself for the disclaimer, "but my neighbor keeps referencing my schedule." Kim paused like she was pulling a standard response from a shelf. "Mr. Halden?" she asked. "Oh, he's very active in the community. He helps keep an eye on things." "That's kind of the problem," I said. A small laugh on her end. Not mean, just dismissive. "Claire, he's just being nice. New place can feel weird at first. Give it time." I stared at the doorbell app icon on my phone. Time was what he seemed to have plenty of. If nobody took it seriously, I needed proof they couldn't wave away. That weekend, I met Tessa. She lived next door, worked night shift at a hospital, and had the kind of tired eyes that made honesty feel like the only option. We crossed paths as she was getting home, and I was taking out recycling. "You're in the rental," she said. Not a question. "Yeah, 2 weeks." She nodded like she'd already processed a file on me. Then she lowered her voice. "Halden's been extra since you moved in. You notice?" I felt a weird relief, like my gut finally had a witness. "I notice," I said. "A lot." Tessa leaned closer. "He runs the neighborhood watch group chat," she said. "Not officially, just socially." Group chat. My brain flashed back to the last time a group chat dragged me into a mess I didn't ask for. I swallowed. "What does he say about me?" Tessa hesitated, and that hesitation said everything. The next morning, I checked my clips again, searching for anything I'd missed. That's when I found the driveway moment. Mr. Halden walked by my car, slowed, and dipped his head like he was reading something. He didn't touch it. He just looked, long enough to feel like a note taken. Then he glanced up at my front window, as if confirming whether I was watching him watch me. My coffee sat on the counter. I took a sip. It was cold enough to be a punishment. What information did he think he needed from my car? I told myself to calm down. So I did what calm down people do. I adjusted something small to see if the universe would stop acting weird. I switched my gym day. Instead of Monday at 6 o'clock-ish, I went Tuesday at 5:30-ish. No announcement, no pattern posted on a fridge. Just a quiet change in my calendar like a secret. Then I took a screenshot of my week, blurred the details. I ate just enough to prove to myself I'd moved things around. If he referenced Monday again, it meant he was guessing. If he referenced Tuesday, it meant he knew. The test wasn't about fitness. It was about surveillance. At 5:42 Tuesday morning, my phone buzzed. Tuesday gym now? Smart. Less crowded. I stared at it until my eyes started to water, not from fear exactly, but from the sheer audacity of someone acting like my life was a shared Google Doc. I typed, deleted, typed again. Finally, I wrote, "Please stop monitoring my comings and goings." He responded in under a minute. "Monitoring is a strong word. I'm looking out. Neighborhood safety. You'll appreciate it eventually." He added a smiley face. That smiley face felt like a thumb on my shoulder. If he believed he was entitled to watch me, he wouldn't stop on his own. I forwarded the texts to Kim at the leasing office. I didn't write a dramatic paragraph. I wrote it like a status update. "Hi, Kim. Sharing a series of messages from Mr. Halden. I did not provide my schedule. I'm requesting support setting boundaries." Her first response was exactly what I expected. We encourage neighborly communication before escalating concerns. Translation, handle it yourself. So I replied with one line and an attachment. Understood. Here is video with timestamp. I attached the Monday 6:14 clip. 10 minutes later, I got a new email. Same thread, different tone. "Thank you, Claire. Please forward any additional video evidence." There it was. The shift. Not because I'd changed, because the proof did. If the footage made her take it seriously, I needed to show her everything. 2 days later, I came home from the office and found a note taped to my door. No envelope, no stamp. Just paper, right at eye level, like a tiny stage for a message. It said, "Door was quiet today. Hope you're okay. Just keeping you safe." That last sentence was the exact phrase he'd used out loud the first time he returned my package. The familiarity made my skin prickle, because it meant he expected his words to live in my house. I took a photo, then another, closer, so the pen strokes were visible. And I realized something else. If he was comfortable leaving notes, he was comfortable being at my door when I wasn't home. How many times had he stood there without a camera catching it? That night, Tessa knocked softly, like she didn't want to be seen knocking. "I shouldn't," she said, holding up her phone. But you need to see this." She showed me a screenshot from the neighborhood safety group chat. Names blurred, profile pictures cropped. But Mr. Halden's number sat at the top like a crown. One message read, "Rental's been quiet. She's gone Tuesday/Thursday mornings. Just FYI." Another, "Trash can out late again. Document it." Document. Again. I felt my throat tighten. This wasn't one man being overly friendly. This was a small audience. A system. Tessa's voice turned flat. "He does this with renters," she said. "Acts like he's protecting the neighborhood. But it's control." I nodded slowly. Because control always wears a costume. If he had an audience, he'd keep performing. Thursday morning, I stayed home from the office and didn't tell anyone. I wanted to feel what it was like to exist without being on his schedule. At 9:18, motion alert. I opened the app and watched Mr. Halden step into frame. He didn't knock. He looked at my door, then slightly to the side, and spoke to someone off camera. His voice was low, like he was sharing a tip. "She's usually already gone," he said, but she switched it up. "Still, you can see the pattern." The other person murmured something I couldn't make out. Then Mr. Halden laughed. Not friendly, more like satisfied. The clip ended with him lingering one more beat, then walking away like nothing had happened. I sat on my couch, coffee in my hand, and realized my hand was shaking. He wasn't just watching me. He was briefing someone. I went back to the HOA emails, scrolling like I was reading a contract I'd accidentally signed. A new message had come in overnight. Subject, safety walk and compliance check. It mentioned volunteers. It mentioned documentation. It mentioned daytime hours. And it ended with, direct questions to your safety captain. Safety captain. That title would be funny if it weren't attached to my front porch. I pictured Mr. Halden saying, just keeping you safe, and how it now sounded less like kindness and more like permission. Like he believed safety gave him the right to my life. If safety was his excuse, then my proof had to speak louder than his title. That afternoon, I built a folder. Not because I wanted drama, because I wanted clarity. Doorbell clips with timestamps, screenshots of texts, the note photo, the HOA email screenshots, and a simple timeline written in plain language, like I was explaining it to someone who didn't know me and didn't owe me sympathy. I kept thinking about the earlier messes in my life, how people had tried to rewrite reality with confidence, the envelope that came with no return address, the final payment notification that insisted I'd done something I hadn't, the group chat that convinced itself it knew the truth before the truth arrived. Back then, the only thing that saved me was documentation. So, I documented. Now I just had to put the proof in front of the right person. Kim finally agreed to meet, but not because she suddenly cared about my comfort, because the HOA had sent her something called a violation report. It claimed I was frequently absent and possibly subletting. Subletting. I laughed out loud in my kitchen, alone, holding a cold coffee like it was a microphone. I wasn't subletting. I barely hosted myself. Then Kim sent another message. Mr. Halden submitted supporting documentation. Supporting documentation. And suddenly, my clips weren't just proof of discomfort, they were proof of motive. Mr. Halden wasn't tracking me because he was worried about my safety. He was tracking me to build a case, to leverage community standards against renters, to control who got to live here, not a protector, a gatekeeper. If he could weaponize my routine, he could weaponize anything. I went to the leasing office with my folder printed and my voice as calm as I could make it. Kim sat across from me, professional posture, neutral face. I want to understand what's happening, she said, like we were discussing a maintenance request. So I showed her. I didn't say creepy. I said timestamp. I didn't say he's obsessed. I said he referenced my schedule to the minute. I slid the Monday 6:14 clip forward, then the Wednesday package clip, then the driveway glance, then the Thursday off-camera briefing. Kim's eyes changed in small increments, like someone slowly realizing the ground is not as solid as they assumed. She cleared her throat. This is excessive, she said finally. Agreed, I said. So what's the process for stopping it? Kim had to choose between the HOA's comfort and my right to exist. That Friday, after my meeting, Mr. Halden showed up with a clipboard. A clipboard is such a specific prop. It's the costume of authority. He stood on my porch, angled so the camera caught his hands and the edge of his chest. Claire, he called like we were friends. Heard you've been worried. We can clear this up neighbor to neighbor. I didn't open the door. I spoke through it, voice steady. Please communicate through the leasing office. He chuckled. There's no need to get official, he said. We're just keeping you safe. That phrase again, like a spell he thought worked on everyone. He shifted his clipboard, and the camera caught a corner of paper labeled Hawthorne Ridge Safety. Then he leaned closer and lowered his voice. You don't want the HOA thinking you're not following the rules. There it was. The leverage, safety, offered like help. Rules, used like threat. He wasn't just watching me. He wanted me to feel watched. The next week was strangely calm, not magically, Not instantly, but noticeably. Kim emailed me a formal notice had been issued. Yet the HOA sent a bland announcement about restructuring volunteer roles and clarifying boundaries for resident privacy. Language so dry it could have been a cereal box, but the meaning was clear. Mr. Halden was being told in writing to stop. Tessa texted me on a Tuesday morning, "He's not outside, at all." I checked my Doorbell app. No motion alerts, no lingering, no clipboard. My shoulders unclenched a fraction, like they'd been holding a posture I didn't realize I'd adopted. And then one last thing happened that made it feel real. A package arrived. It sat on my porch for a full 10 minutes, untouched, exactly as it should be. Peace felt unfamiliar, but I wasn't giving it back. I didn't throw a party. I didn't post on Nextdoor. I didn't do a victory lap with screenshots. I just went back to being a person with a life that didn't need an audience. I still documented for a while, quietly, the way you keep a spare key even after the lock is fixed. But I stopped checking the app every hour. I stopped holding my breath when I pulled into my driveway. And one morning, I realized my coffee was still hot when I took the first sip. It sounds small, but small is the whole point. Privacy isn't dramatic. It's ordinary. And nobody should have to earn it by building a folder of proof. Except the neighborhood didn't forget overnight. A couple weeks later, I saw Mr. Halden across the street, talking to another neighbor with the same friendly posture, the same careful smile. He didn't look at my house, but I recognized the performance, and I realized something I wish I'd known earlier. Some people don't want community. Well, they want control with a nicer label. So, I'm curious. If a neighbor started quoting your schedule like it was public information, would you brush it off at first, like I did? Or would you trust the discomfort right away? What would you do?